Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all the shameless sports takes. First of all, happy March Madness. Happy March Madness. Great time of the year. Good to see you guys. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. I hope your brackets aren't as busted as mine is right now. I mean, I'm not in too bad a shape. I mean, my winner is still in it. I got Alabama winning the whole tournament. They're still in it. They made it to the Sweet 16. But we are getting a huge game on Thursday. Me personally, I think this might be the biggest game of the whole tournament, aside from the championship and aside from the Florida versus UConn game. We're getting Maryland versus Florida. To me, I think that is a huge game, especially with the way those two teams won their last games over this weekend on Sunday. I think this is a huge matchup that we are going to see. And honestly, I think this is really the biggest game, in my opinion, of the whole tournament. I mean, obviously, aside from the championship and obviously aside from Florida versus UConn, the one seed versus the two-time reigning champions who were on the verge of possibly of fighting for a three-peat, this is a huge game. And I got to say, Florida has looked dominant all season, obviously being the one seed, but I'm taking Maryland in this one. And the main reason I'm taking Maryland is because of Derik Queen. I mean, Maryland, if you look at the two different ways these two teams won their last game, I mean, Florida beat UConn, iced UConn on a huge shot off Walter Clayton Jr., huge three-pointer from him to ice the game. Maryland, they close out Colorado State with a buzzer beater game winner from Derik Queen at the center position, hitting a fadeaway midi. I mean, the two different ways that these teams won their last games, meeting up, going head-to-head on Thursday, I believe is going to be a huge matchup. It's going to be a great game. But I'm riding with Maryland in this game, and solely because of Derik Queen. Derik Queen is just a big-time player. He's proven that, not especially as a freshman, he's proven that throughout this season and really throughout the tournament. I mean, he's averaging almost a double-double on the entire year. He's averaging a double-double during the tournament. And, I mean, from what we have seen from Derik Queen, this is a player who rises to the occasion. He is a player that can dominate can dominate consistently throughout the game, or can give you those key plays in the biggest moments of the game to take your team over the hump. I mean, this guy, and he wasn't insane against Colorado State, 17 points, 6 rebounds. But in that stat line, if you watch the game, you can see he was still consistent scoring. He consistently played defense, racking up 2 blocks. I mean, he was consistently a force in that game. Even though he didn't have breakout numbers, didn't have a 30-point, 25-point game, he was still a consistent force in that game and was the reason why Maryland won up until the buzzer. I mean, that's what great players do. At the center position as a freshman, calling for the rock in his hands with seconds left on the clock, having the confidence to take that type of shot from towards the baseline, contested with a hand in his face. I mean, that takes confidence. That takes skill. I mean, to have that at a young age, at only 18 years old, Derik Queen is a big-time player. He's a guy that wants the ball in his hands when the game is on the line. He's aggressive. He's physical. I mean, Derik Queen has all the makings to be a top 5 draft pick coming up this year. I mean, you can see that. I mean, he solidified his pick this past weekend, if you ask me. Now, I got to say, it's clear that he is the driving force of this Crab 5. That's clear. He is the driving force of Maryland. Maryland would not be here without this freshman from Baltimore. Like, that is the type of guy that you want on your team. And that's not the type of guy that I am going to bet against in a huge game like this. Derik Queen is a big time player. He is a big game type of player. He is exactly the type of player that would go off in this setting on this huge stage. Like I said, arguably the biggest game of the tournament. I think we are in to see a monster performance from Derik Queen. We didn't see a monster performance this past weekend against Colorado State, but he was still a standout by sealing the win for his squad. I think we are going to see a breakout game from Derik Queen on Thursday against the 1 seed in Florida. This is a statement-making game for Derik Queen this week. Statement-making game. Not only are they playing the 1 seed, but they're fighting for a spot in the Elite Eight. Maryland making it to the Elite Eight. I mean, there's a lot on the line here, and this I'm predicting a breakout game from Derik Queen in this game. And honestly, when you look at Derik Queen, I honestly see Derik Queen as the second best player that is still alive in this tournament behind Cooper Flagg. I mean, that's how dominant this guy is as a freshman. To me, I don't think there is another. I think the only player that is better than Derik Queen that is still alive right now in the tournament is Cooper Flagg. And honestly, in this whole draft class, I honestly don't see there being 4 players better than Derik Queen in this draft class. I think there was really 1 to 2 arguable guys that you could say are better prospects than Derik Queen, especially for how young he is. And you got to say he has a bit more of an upside because of how young he is. And honestly, looking at the draft class as a whole, I think Derik Queen is one of the only players in this collective class whose game will translate to the NBA on a stardom level. At least that's my opinion. That's what I'm predicting. I think when you look at other guys in this class, VJ Edgecombe, Walter Clayton, Dylan Harper, like you look at other big names in this draft class, I honestly feel like Derik Queen, I think he has a higher ceiling in the NBA than a lot of these other guys do. I think he's one of the only guys in this draft class, at least one of the bigger names in this draft class, whose game will translate over to the pros at a stardom level. I'm not talking role player, rotational piece. You know, I'm not talking about a guy off the bench. I'm talking about on a star level. A guy who can help change the dynamic of a team. Like I look at Derik Queen, I honestly see a guy who has cat level talent, but not nearly as soft. like Derik Queen literally has the same talent and play style as Karl Anthony Towns, but has that grit to him. He's got that mental toughness to him for sure. Like honestly, the Sixers fighting for a draft pick right now. I mean, look, fighting for a top 5 to top 3 draft pick right now. Derik Queen is the clear choice to me as to who the Sixers should be targeting in this year's draft. Clear choice to me. I mean, honestly, the only let's say the Sixers, because they could get there this year. Let's say they get a top 3 pick in the draft or top 2. The only player who I'm drafting before Derik Queen is Cooper Flagg. The only player that I am drafting before Derik Queen is Cooper Flagg. Ace Bailey is arguable. Like I wouldn't be upset if the Sixers drafted Ace before Queen. Ace Bailey is an elite 6'10". I mean, stretch guy who can play the 3 or the 4. He can shoot. He can create his own shots. I mean, he's kind of got like a Jason Tatum, KD-esque to him in terms of his length and his skill set. But inarguable, the only player that I am for sure drafting just head and shoulders above Derik Queen before Derik Queen is Cooper Flagg. Like, the only reason why I would say Derik Queen before Ace Bailey, not because I think Derik Queen is head and shoulders a better player than Ace Bailey. I'm looking at it from a Sixers fit, right? I'm looking at it in terms of what the Sixers need. Like, the same reason why I would draft, I wouldn't call you crazy, anyone crazy who would say the Sixers should draft Ace Bailey before Derik Queen. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm not looking at it like that. Like, I don't think that would be a crazy thing to do. But I'm looking at it from a need perspective. Like, I would draft Derik Queen before Ace Bailey for the same reasons I would have drafted Dalton Knecht before Jared McCain last year. For the same reasons. Because if you look at the Sixers last year, to me, Dalton Knecht was a better fit for the Sixers, even looking at it now. And by the same time, I'm not complaining that we got Jared McCain because of how dominant he was when he was healthy. And I admit I was wrong on that. I didn't think Jared McCain, I was wrong on that front. I didn't think Jared McCain would be as dominant as he was, right? At least this early on. But at the same time, I wouldn't have been wrong picking Dalton Knecht before Jared McCain because of the year Dalton Knecht is clearly having. I mean, that's a guy who could be rookie of the year, especially if he were to get more minutes. Dalton Knecht on the Sixers right now would have been unquestionably the rookie of the year candidate as opposed to Jared McCain. But I'm looking at it for that reason. You know, I didn't feel like we needed another point guard because that's what Jared McCain was at Duke. I didn't feel like we needed another point guard because of Tyrese Maxey. I felt like we needed more of a number two, a guy that could play the three because of how inconsistent Tobias Harris was. You know, even though Kelly Oubre was a valuable addition to the Sixers, he's not a guy that's going to give us 20 a night. Dalton Knecht is that guy. On the right system, Dalton Knecht could be a guy that could give you 15 to 20 a night. That could let you move Kelly to the 4. You know, so I thought fit-wise, Dalton Knecht would have been the better pick for the Sixers. Just like how I believe now, Derik Queen would be the better pick for the Sixers as opposed to Ace Bailey. And I say that because, to me, the Sixers need a solution for the center position. And I say that because the Joel Embiid era is clearly over. Like, that era is over. The longer we as Sixers fans try to argue that point and try to deny that fact, the longer we are going to be a failure of an organization. Like, the longer the Sixers organization try to rationalize and continue to put faith in Joel Embiid, the longer we will be a unserious contender in the NBA. Like, signing Derik Queen would not only give us a plan for the future at the center position, but it would also be an investment in the development of Derik Queen because you would be allowing him to learn from Joel Embiid while he is still around. Like, signing Derik Queen now would be as good of drafting Derik Queen rather now would be as good of a decision as drafting a corner like the Eagles did this past year in the draft, bringing in Quinion Mitchell. They brought in Quinion Mitchell. Now he had ample opportunity to learn from not just Darius Slay, who was playing and starting across from him, but also being able to learn from another vet who was once elite, from a guy like James Bradbury, a guy who may not be the same, talent that he was, not having the same effectiveness and skill that he once had a couple years ago, but still having the knowledge of what it takes to be an elite caliber, all-star caliber player in the league, which you can see did numbers for Quinion Mitchell this year. He benefited greatly being able to learn from both Darius Slay, of course, but also James Bradbury, which I feel like is something that gets played down a lot. I feel like Derik Queen would benefit in a similar fashion from being able to play with Joel Embiid. I'm not looking at us drafting Derik Queen as, Derik Queen and Joel Embiid being a dominant duo. I'm not looking at it from that standpoint at all, because I am not trusting or relying on Embiid to be on the court long enough for that front court duo to be a duo, to be a force in the NBA. I think strictly from a learning aspect, from a growing aspect, I think it would be beneficial to Derik Queen for him to come to Philly, but also for us to have Derik Queen, a guy like Derik Queen, an 18-year-old who is playing at a dominant level, to learn from one of the best centers to really ever play the game, one of the most talented centers to ever play the game in Joel Embiid. Having that type of mentorship up close, I think would do numbers for Derik Queen's development, the same way playing and being able to learn from James Bradbury, being in the locker room with James Bradbury, did for Quinion Mitchell's numbers this year coming in as a rookie. Now with a healthy Joel Embiid and Derik Queen on the floor at the same time would obviously be great. It would be great. But we should know that as a Sixers fan, we know that we cannot count on having a healthy Joel Embiid especially when it comes to the postseason time of the year, the playoff time of the season. So that's not something I would be relying on. I wouldn't be drafting Derik Queen just for the simple fact that, just from a standpoint of building around Joel Embiid. Like, drafting Derik Queen would send a clear message. It would send a clear message that this team no longer revolves around Joel Embiid, and that we now have a plan for after Embiid is gone, from when Embiid is out of Philly, whether it's due to retirement or whether it's just us letting him go. This is honestly, drafting Derik Queen would send a similar message that the Lakers had trading for Luka. Like, it would send a similar message. The Lakers acquiring Luka Doncic, it not only gave them a piece for the now, but it also was an investment in their future for life after LeBron. It sent a clear message that this team no longer revolves around LeBron James. We now no longer are putting our eggs in the LeBron James basket, trying to give him the tools that he needs to take us back to the finals. That wasn't the most important part of the trade. The most important part and benefit of acquiring Luka for the Lakers was the fact that, yes, they have a clear-cut superstar right now who could help them get to the finals. But at the same time, it wasn't, okay, what piece can we bring in to support LeBron? It was, okay, we're bringing in a piece that could be the new center of our team. We're looking past LeBron now. We're looking past LeBron. Drafting Derik Queen is not a decision that would be taken from the mindset of, okay, what can we give Joel where we can get over the hump? Like, what other weapon can we surround Joel Embiid with where now we can get over the hump? This would be a move where, okay, Derik Queen is clearly a star in the making. 18 years old, is already arguably the best big man in the draft this year. Y'all know, I think he is the clear-cut best big in the draft this year, but he's at least top 2. So it would not be, okay, what does Joel Embiid need for us to get to the finals? It would be, okay, how does this help Maxey? How does this help McCain? But not only them, how does now This helped Queen. We put him in a system where he's able to learn from a guy like Joel Embiid. I mean, if he has a full season playing with Joel, having Joel Embiid in a locker room, being in a locker room with Joel Embiid, imagine what his development will look like, years down the road, where he was able to kind of pick up that skill set up close. So I not only think Derik Queen could be a good move for now, a healthy Joel Embiid, Derik Queen on the floor, a healthy Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey. I mean, shoot, that might even make PG look better. Who knows? Might even make PG look better. Quentin Grimes, like this would be a good move for now, but most importantly, the focus is that it would be a great move for in the future. It would be a great move for life after Embiid. Because the longer that we try to hold out hope for Embiid, we try to rely on Embiid as the guy who is going to take us over the hump, the longer the Sixers will not be a winning organization. Like the Sixers will never be a winning organization as long as Joel Embiid is still the center of the team. There needs to be a shift now. The shift needs to be towards Maxey and McCain. And I think if the Sixers were to draft Derik Queen, you would include him into the mix because of how I feel like he would be able to grow in this system. And, and I think the Sixers, if they drafted Ace Bailey as opposed to Derik Queen, like I said, I don't think that would be a bad pickup. I mean, it's really like picking a flavor of ice cream, yeah, you got your chocolate, you got cookies and cream over here, you got strawberry over here. I mean, all are good flavors, but at the same time, I do feel like fit-wise, Derik Queen would be a better fit for the Sixers. I think Ace Bailey, that would be a better move for right now because of the fact that Ace Bailey is not a true five. He has the height and length of a center, but in terms of his play style, he's not a true five. Like, I think Ace Bailey would be a great pickup if we could rely on Joel Embiid to be healthy. Like, I feel like Ace Bailey would be a great pickup if we knew we could still rely on Joel Embiid to be our consistent number one option. Because then we would know the five is taken care of. The center position is good. That's not the case right now. Like, the five position for the Sixers is very much uncertain. Because Ace Bailey, even though he has the height of a center, he's really more of a stretch guy, a guy who can play the four or a big three. I mean, he can create his own shot. He can shoot. He's a 3-level scorer type of guy. He's not a true center type of guy. Derik Queen is a true center who could be a 4, depending on the system. He's a true 5 who could be a 4. He's honestly like Karl Anthony Towns in that regard. Like, he is a big guy. He is a big man. He's a big man. But in the right system, if you had another guy who could take over the responsibilities of the 5, that would then free up Derik Queen to be more of an offensive guy as opposed to worrying about crashing the boards as much. That's really what we saw from Cat both in Minnesota and now in New York. When he was paired with a guy who was more of a rebounder, a clear number 5, like a Rudy Gobert, or a guy like a Mitchell Robinson in New York, it allowed him, because of how talented he is, it allowed him to kind of free up his game a little more, to be more of an offensive guy, where now he didn't have to worry about the responsibilities of a 5 that much. It gave him more of an opportunity to do more roaming, where now the paint wasn't exposed. That's the type of guy Derik Queen could be. He could be a true 5, but then also if we were to bring in a taller guy, another guy who was strictly a rebounder, more of a true 5, it would allow for Derik Queen's game to be freed up a little more in terms of opportunity, because now he would have more of an opportunity to look for different types of shots, to use his talents to the fullest of their capabilities, like how the Knicks are able to use Cat right now. MVP caliber year for a good part of the season, So I definitely think Derik Queen is the clear-cut better choice than Ace Bailey, because it not only is an option for now, but it's also an option for life after Embiid, because we have someone who can assume that 5 position, who can assume the responsibilities of center. But then he is also a guy who could shift to a 4, to from a shift to predominantly the 4 position, that power forward, if we were to bring in someone else, to now we are playing big ball, and I think that is with a healthy Joel Embiid, that is the type of role we could get from Derik Queen this year. But he would still also be learning how to be a better center as well, pairing him with a guy who could have a similar skill set, a guy who he could have a similar skill set with in Joel Embiid later in his career. So I definitely think Derik Queen is the way to go for the Sixers. Now, assuming the Sixers get anything less than the first overall pick, because then you got to go Cooper Flag. you got to go Cooper Flag. But assuming the Sixers get anything less than the first overall pick, I think Derik Queen is the way to go. I think Derik Queen is the way to go. Now, not going to hear me complain if we get Ace Bailey like I did, when we picked up Jared McCain. But Derik Queen is clearly the way to go. Not even just skill set wise, but just mentality wise. Like I said before, Derik Queen has the talent of Karl Anthony Towns, but isn't nearly as soft. Like Derik Queen, he has the type of personality and the mindset that it takes to be an athlete in Philly. Like he has that grit. He's got that edge to him. Like, bro, at the end of the Colorado State game, they asked him how he was able to do what he just did. Dude responds that I'm from Baltimore. Bro, that's the type of energy we need in Philly. That's the type of energy. Derik, how are you able to, it's because I'm from Baltimore. This is what we do. Bro, that is the type of energy that we need in Philly. Baltimore is just down the road from Philly. Similar type of mentality. We're gonna take everything from you. We're gonna leave nothing on the court. Like that is the type of grit and mentality, the type of energy that we need in Philly, that it takes to be an athlete in Philly. Derik Queen has that mentality in him. He's got that Philly mentality in him. I mean, that is the perfect sort of, when you think Philly sports, that's the type of response that you think about. That's the type of persona and the type of the type of output that you would match up with the identity of Philly. That matches the sports identity of Philly. Derik Queen's his competitiveness, his attitude, like that is the guy who belongs in Philly, who belongs in a Sixers uniform. Same type of guy I thought Dalton Knecht was going into the draft. Same type of guy. So I really think Derik Queen is going to be the way to go for the Sixers in this draft, assuming we get anything less than a number 1 overall pick. And then, of course, I definitely think what will even make my case stronger is this game on Thursday against Florida. Derik Queen is going to show why he should really be a top 3 pick in this draft coming up this summer, because of what he is going to do to Florida on Thursday. What he does to Florida on Thursday is going to prove me right. It's going to prove me right that he should be a guy that is taken top 3 and not top 5. So I got Maryland. Versus Florida. I got Maryland in this game on Thursday. And I think the Sixers should take Derik Queen. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.